Travel nursing can bring you to places you've never been before. Tell us your story.
Good morning, it's Rita at the Travel Nurse Channel, and it's Tuesday again. It just seems like it's been a long time, but it's only been a week, and here we are again every Tuesday Pacific Standard Time at about 10 a.m. and happy to see you all again. And we talk about a variety of things that pertain to healthcare workers that travel. And my focus is generally nurses. They're the biggest group that travel, and I have been a nurse for a very long time. And I thought today might be a good time to focus on mental health. So mental health nurses, mental health workers, psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, and all of the different people in that area that we need. And so I thought and that do travel and that are needed in the travel industry. So some of the statistics and some of the sources I looked at are saying that in the next 8 years or so till 2029, there will be one of the biggest increases in needs for mental health care workers than in any other occupation. So that is pretty extraordinary, but not difficult to believe if you just think about it. If you think about the stresses and our young people or millennials or whatever the next generation is, the 20-year-olds and so forth, they seem to have an unusually, and maybe it's because we're more aware, but unusually higher incidence of anxiety and anxiety disorders and stressors that, I saw it. Okay, I'm one of 4 children. So I saw a little bit of it in my parents and a little bit of it in my siblings. I feel like my sister had a lot of anxiety. My brothers, maybe I was less aware of it. Maybe I was a little bit more self-absorbed. They were my younger brothers, so they were just, horsing around while I was going through, I was going to say menstruation. Well, while I was a young teenager, they were still quite young. But my sister was a closer sibling. She was less than a year older than me. And I know she suffered from depression and didn't recognize it really till many, many years later and was able to address it. But our situation here with COVID, our situation here in the 21st century, with the speed that we travel through life and with the cost of living and etc., and moving away, I think, over the last several decades of the family unit, of the support unit, of first, your immediate family, which would be husband, wife, mother, father, and children and siblings, to the extended family, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles and nieces. We're very separated because we're a world that travels quite a bit and follows opportunities, as one should, for jobs and livelihood and so forth. So we're not as connected. I mean, I grew up in a household where grandma and grandpa were in the same building. We were in a 2-family home, and they had the small apartment, and we had the bigger apartment. And our neighbors next door was a family of 5, whom an aunt or a cousin lived next door with her 2 children and her husband. So families were very connected, and even if you weren't in the same home, you were generally a walk or a short drive away. So families were very connected. Oh yeah, and the grandparents in the second house, 2 houses away from me, was grandparents who were like great aunt and uncle to the lady next door and her 3 kids. It was a very connected neighborhood. And on the other side of me, my best friend's house, she had a family of 5, a family of 6, an older brother, a younger brother, and a younger sister, her parents, her uncle, and her grandmother, all in the same 2-family house. And so it went. You know, we were very connected and we supported one another and so forth. Now, I am a firm believer in that you pick the girlfriends you pick or your sister friends forever. The boyfriends you pick are your brother friends forever. If you're lucky enough to have 1 or 2 of those wonderful friends, you're a lucky person. But stress is a big factor. The mental health industry and the need for mental health workers is fantastic and is growing. So in the next, up until 2029, there will be one of the biggest surges and needs, a 25% or more increase in the need for healthcare workers is approaching here. And one of my resources just went down. There it is. Let's bring her back up. Let's log on. And I will try to give you some good information on what's going on. One of the things you may have heard of, and let me define what I mean by healthcare workers. Of course, nurses, because we are the Travel Nurse Channel, and there are a great number of nurses that travel. So those would be nurses that work in the industry of behavioral health, mental health, addiction, counseling, etc. And let's bring this back up. Come on, hang on, excuse me a minute. Okay, and but in that group of mental health workers and mental health caregivers, we have a huge group of people, licensed psychiatric techs. We have licensed nurses, vocational and professional nurses. We have RNs, we have nurse practitioners, we have PAs, we have psychologists, a variety of psychologists. We have MFCCs, marriage, family, MFCC, marriage, family, children, counselors, is that MFCC? We have psychiatrists, we have a neuroscientist, we have a great number of healthcare workers that are specifically, their goal and their training are to help those with behavioral disorders, with behavioral diseases, with mental health diseases, with addiction problems, which are usually related to these other mental health issues. And for example, people will, say, oh, he medicates with marijuana or she medicates with alcohol. Because why? Because maybe their mental health issues aren't being addressed. Maybe they're not even conscious of it. Maybe it's something they've lived with forever. A level of neglect or a level of abuse or something, that's been haunting them all their lives. And there's nobody ever said, have you been to your mental health care worker recently? People will say, gee, have you been to the dentist or have you had a checkup? But not so much taking care of one's health. Our homeless situation is probably bigger than it's ever been before. And you'll see in that group a variety of addictive problems and behavioral problems and mental health issues. So I think it warrants looking at. And I think if you are a traveler or you're a nurse in training or an experienced nurse or a nurse that's thinking about switching careers, same with the other healthcare workers, the techs and the licensed professionals and the patient care techs and so forth. Maybe you're looking for a shift from the work you have been doing, whether it be in a clinic or a bedside or a home health. Maybe you're thinking, you know what, I really care about this. I am really concerned in schools. In schools, there's needs. All the counseling that goes on in schools and the referrals and so forth. And occupational therapy, another area that our Congress has recognized as patient health care. I have an itchy nose. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Oh, I know. You're going to get in a fight. If your nose itches, you're going to get in a fight. If your palm itches, you're going to get some money. Those are old wives' tales. But at any rate, let me use my hand sanitizer. At any rate, it may be an area that you want to consider. Maybe it's something you did in the past, and then you got involved in something different, whether it's, you know, maybe you got involved in the beauty industry and plastics, or maybe you got involved in critical care, or your travels took you one way or the other, and you think, I do care. I do care very much about mental health, behavioral health, and I do want to get back to it. Well, you're needed. You're needed. So one thing I wanted to talk about, if you have a new president, everybody is aware of that there has been something called loan forgiveness. And so there's a couple of words. Forgiveness is a word. Let's see if I have that pulled up here. Relief, forgiveness, canceling of student loans, and so forth. There's a lot of words that seem similar but have slightly different meanings. So pay attention if you are a new worker or a student and you want to take advantage. You should take advantage, of course, of the loan forgiveness and so forth that's going on. The Congress, the 115th, 116th, 117th Congress, the act has come up and has been set in motion by our president. Oh, I'm so thirsty, and I forgot to bring in anything to drink. The CARES Act came out during C-A-R-E-S, all capitalized. The CARES Act came out early on when COVID-19 hit, and it was set up to last for student loans as a suspension and then forgiveness when we got our new president up until January 2021. And in the last 5 days, I checked a source. It has been now extended to January 2022. So if you are a student, a healthcare student, or student of any kind, but of course, we are the Travel Nurse Channel, so we are concerned with healthcare workers primarily. But all that borrowing you did to get your good education, the extensions are in place now till January of 2022. So you've still got many, many months to get in on that, and in some cases forgiven. So canceled, forgiven, extended, etc. They mean slightly different things, but take a look at that. That could be a big help to you in your career at this time. Now, another point I wanted to make, that is information I got from my daughter, who is soon to be in a COTA, a C-O-T-A. She's right now a S-C-O-A-T-A. She's a student. Certified occupational therapy assistant who's soon to graduate. She's in the last couple of months of internship and so forth. And she looked into a lot of this, doing all her studies. Let's see if I have any of it pulled up. Oh, I don't. I'll pull it up again. She studied all this, and occupational therapy was recognized by Congress as one of the disciplines for mental health and behavioral and so forth. So their talents and their tools and their training makes them a significant part of the team, along with the psychiatrist and the techs and the nurses and so forth. are the occupational therapists and the certified COTAs, the certified occupational therapy assistants. So that's kind of cool. That may be something she will be looking at or advocating for with her patients as she gets into it. She's always been interested in Geri, and Geri Psych is a big part of Geri Care. So she, in one of her primary papers that she did for her university at St. Catherine University, she said she would show her support by contacting local legislators, trying to get more members of Congress to become co-sponsors to advocate on the topic of mental health and behavioral health, and supporting them and forgiving loans and all of the things through friends, neighbors, family, and encouraging them as well to seek support from Congress. So that's how these things work, you know, we network. There's public forums out there that she talked about, and that would be the free public forum on mental illness. That is one forum. Another forum she mentioned was community forums, and pretty much anybody. This is America. If you want to speak out, you can speak out. And if it's two or more, bravo, you know, go to a park, go to a public area, invite your legislators, your local politicians, your neighbors, and so forth. My neighbors just invited us all over one evening because they were supporting somebody running for a local office, and they thought just get the people down the block to come in. Maybe they never heard of this person before, and she has something to say, and so forth. So we all went. We were open-minded, and so we're capable of quite a lot in this country. And travelers, I wanted you to know that this whole area, let me open up for comments here. You know, it's summertime, and so there's not a lot of comments, and so maybe my subjects are not really of interest to you, but I thought I'd bring this up because I saw that need. I saw the need, the increasing need that's coming up in the next several years. But I would love to hear from you, travelers, everybody, nurses, occupational therapists, physical therapists, doctors, psychiatrists, clinics, long-term facilities, hospitals, all of the urgent care, surgery centers, plastics groups. Travelers work in all these areas, and there are many, many subjects that we can talk about. We can talk about salaries. We can talk about companies. We can talk about needs. We can talk about what it takes to travel. What is the best part about it? What is not so great about it? What can you learn from others that travel? And we have been covering these subjects over the many, many months, but I don't want to be too redundant, and I thought this topic might be something that travelers are wondering. Is it something that is available and open? And the answer is yes, and it's growing. So I encourage you to come chat with me on Tuesdays between 10 and 11 Pacific Standard Time, and or if you would like to make comments or be a guest and chat and share with others, please, 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 please do contact me. It doesn't have to be on my schedule. I mean, this is the time that I broadcast, but we can stream anytime, and then it can be broadcasted on Tuesday and repeated on different days because we have a huge archive on Facebook and YouTube. So please take advantage of it. I'll mention too that we have sponsors of all types. Some are recruiters, some provide housing for travelers, some provide financial advice and direction. It's very specific. The payment and the stipends and the contracts that travelers work under are different than standard salaried jobs and hourly jobs. So there's a lot to kind of work through. If you're getting a stipend for housing or a stipend for your car or your transportation. There's just a lot of different opportunities for travelers, and you want to do what's best for you. It depends on your situation and where your monies are, and do you have loans, and do you want to get a loan, and what would be best for you in a travel circumstance. So we have people that are really well versed in those financial areas, so you can take advantage. Some of them are one of them, a wonderful guy, I always forget his name, Marlin was our guest on the show. Got to wash my hands again. And had a lot of experience working with travelers and social workers and nurses and so forth, and helping them with their financial planning and financial direction. Very, very helpful guy, very wonderful guy. So yeah, so it can get personal, and there's just so many things that go with it, right? I mean, if you are a healthcare worker, what are the tools of your trade? Are those things taxable or not, or tax deductible? Nurses need scrubs, and nurses need stethoscopes, and all kinds of things. Occupational therapists, there's a lot of tools to their trade. Physical therapists as well. So we are here. We're a conduit to connect everybody. Those recruiting the travelers, those that are traveling, maybe travel again. We're trying to make that connection for you. And so today the avenue I wanted to take was this forum for mental health travelers, mental health workers, and the huge need that is out there and growing. And I did want to talk about how our government is looking at that. Our president and our government are looking at loan forgiveness and loan cancellation and so forth. So extensions occur, forgiveness occurs, cancellations occur. So good to know about. You can check it out. Check the CARES Act out, the CARES in capitals Act that was created with COVID, and the extensions put on it up till January 2022. So I hope that could be helpful to some of you. I'm hoping it might help my daughter, who's had to take out quite a bit of loans to get through her education and take care of her baby, and had to leave her job soon after the baby was born to focus on her chosen career. So what else can I tell you? I think I have some notes here. Let's look. Some of my sources are news sources. Some of my sources and resources are specifically nurse related. One of them is U.S. News, that has blogs about student loans and education, and it gives you references to other areas. The coronavirus stimulus. It tells us 5 things student loan borrowers should know. So things to know if you're still in the student stage, or recently were a student. And if you've been paying monthly and so forth, how that's going to affect you. And yeah, this is a good site because they're always updating. They updated as recently as August 12th, and what's today? The 17th. That's just in the last 5 days. So they update quite a lot. Let's see what else I have here. The CARES Act. Yes, suspension is another word. Cancellation is another word. Forgiveness is another word. So they're similar, but good to know what they're going to mean to you. and what the subtle differences are. And of course, as just as a citizen, what does that mean to us? I mean, we're going to continue to be taxed when we are giving away billions of dollars for the needs that exist in the country right now, particularly since COVID. So there's billions of dollars out there being loaned out. So, yeah. Oh, default is another word. Yeah, there's a lot of words that they use about these student loans. So, yep. So extensions, forgiveness, all in the same direction of allowing you to get your degree, get going, get some work, and not be burdened by having to pay, big monthly fees on your loans. So maybe some of it actually being forgiven. So wouldn't that be nice? I would have loved that. I had 2 kids and I was still paying off some loans. So there you go. There you go. Nerd Wallet. That's another interesting site you might want to check out, just regarding their opinions on what's going on with the loans. So I'm not hearing from my friends out there. I think you're all busy, maybe taking breaks, maybe working hard. I wish I had something light to talk to you about. Mental health, mental health, don't we all want it? We want as much health as possible, right? We want to be heart healthy. We want to be physically fit. We want to be well rested. We want to go to our jobs with our best selves, right? And it's hard to get through life without something. I mean, I have a little grandchild that's 16 months old, and her day is up and down all the time with frustrations, with tripping and stumbling when she goes too fast or doesn't, really have a good spatial sense yet. So we see stressors everywhere, and we want to be able to enjoy life, and that's why we have our mental health care workers. They help us to find the balance and maintain our health. And what does it take? Many things. There are therapies we talked about a little bit, occupational therapies that can help. Certainly physical fitness helps. Sometimes resting helps. Hydration, there's so many different things. Medication, water therapy. I mean, there's a music therapy, art therapy, so many therapies. And to feel that you are stuck, I worked with the most wonderful woman. She probably did have something organic or physiologic going on with her brain. She did have procedure or 2, and had issues that occurred before her procedure and issues that occurred after her procedure. And it was just, I have such fond memories of working with this gal. Wonderful nurse. It was her second career. She raised, I believe, 3 daughters and changed careers, became a nurse, and was a great gal. Great gal. She was PICC certified. She used to put in PICC lines. She worked with me in interventional radiology and not so much cardiac caths. She really stuck with the interventional radiology, taught me many things, and had some of the cutest. She used to have a saying, I loved it. She always called her hairdresser her hair operator. And what was another one? My mom used to say, for crying out loud. Well, this friend used to say, oh, for crying in the rain. Like nobody cares and nobody sees because you're crying in the rain. I love these old sayings. They come in handy. They're fun. They're better than using foul language. Potty mouth, we call it. we used to have a quarter jar for when somebody said a bad word. And the kids would always remind me, Mom, you have to put a quarter in the jar. Oh, dear, dear, dear. Folks, I'm thinking about you constantly. I thought I'd discuss the mental health shortage, the need where you're needed in travel assignments, you're needed in during COVID. One of the obvious things is the devastation of COVID of so many lives and illness still. I just ran into somebody, an acquaintance, not even acquaintance, just a neighbor. I had my baby at a nursery / farm. They had a couple of terrific animals there for the baby to observe, birds and goats and a giant African tortoise. She calls it turtle. She does a great turtle imitation. She does this. She goes, turtle, and she hides her face in her t-shirt. It's so cute. But so I made a gal there that was with her 3 young children and checking out the nursery and checking out the animals, and ran into another person there who was masked, and his young children were masked because they had just been through COVID. The entire family had COVID, and it was kind enough to let me know so that we didn't get too close. They were recovered, but they had a lot of symptoms. They were sick. And then this one, I told that woman, I said, there's a man I just met. Try to stay a good distance. He and his children are recovering from COVID. And she said her sister, her 37-year-old sister, got very, very sick and went into lung failure. She had no underlying conditions. I don't know if she was vaccinated or not. She was in a big city, San Francisco, and that's all she mentioned. She didn't mention if she had recovered yet, if she'd been vaccinated, and so forth. But I will tell you, friends of mine, there's been loss and there's been illness. Many had COVID, a lot of my friends. And recently, family members, they recovered. The dad was vaccinated. The child was not. She was symptomatic. For little kids to have fever and headache, it's very uncomfortable and very scary. You know, they're old enough if they're 9, 10, 11. They're old enough if they're 5. My goodness, I can't tell you how surprised I am that the knowledge a 16-month-old has. But by 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, they are well aware of the bigger world around them outside their homes, the news, what their parents discuss. They have fears. A lot of them want to get vaccinated. If they're under 12, they're not getting vaccinated. And then one of my little nieces got the COVID. She got COVID, and she's recovered, and she's beautiful, and she's well, as is my brother, who also had COVID. So they isolated together, and I thought, I hope that was a little silver lining, because in a big family, when you can have one-on-one time with your child, when a parent and a child can have one-on-one time, that's pretty precious. So, and then the older sister picked berries and made them a berry pie. How sweet is that? But I digress. With COVID, with being members of the 21st century humanity, there are stressors. There seems to be less humanity. You know, it's like no big deal. Slow down. If somebody is a pedestrian crossing the street, slow down, stop, let them cross. It just seems like the little courtesies that were once expected are now rare, very much appreciated, and try to remember them and try to teach them. Let's be each other's students and teachers out there, okay? At any rate, I will let you go. This is Rita. I'm pretty sure there's no comments. It's a quiet day out there in Streamland. But we are here on Tuesdays, the Travel Nurse Channel. You can come and chat with me. You can come and stream with me. It takes very little for me. All I do is send you a code, and then boom, I can bring you up, and we can we can chat together about all things that have to do with healthcare and travel, travel nurses, travel healthcare workers, doctors, supporters, sponsors, people that sell uniforms. I'm sure I'm leaving out, there's so much that goes into a travel assignment. There's bookkeeping and cars, you know, loaner cars, transportation, motorhomes. People are building additional dwelling units now that make wonderful places for nurses to stay. Some stay at efficiencies, extended, what is it called? Extended care? Extended, all the housing that's available there for those that travel. Lots of options. Now the Airbnbs offer an option. People's ADUs, their granny flats that they're building. Lots of options for nurses and for healthcare workers that travel. So, so come join us when we're live, or check in anytime. Facebook, YouTube, the Travel Nurse Channel is here for you and all its sponsors. You can call me anytime, or you can email me, or you can go to the website. So the website is www.travelnursechannel.com, and the number should be on the board there, 800-737-6518. And my email is Rita, R-I-T-A, @travelnursechannel.com. And I would love, love, love to chat with you. Others would benefit so much from what you have to say about travel, about your experience, about your desires, about your education. Yeah, I'm searching for you, and I want to talk to you. Actually, I have written to a couple of nurse authors, and I'm sure their stories and their plans for other stories are going to interest you. So hopefully they will be our guests coming up. What else? Today was my mental health care tidbit that I wanted to offer you. We talked about the CARES Act and loan forgiveness for healthcare students, potential students, current students, and recently graduated students. That should be a big help to you. I had a figure in my head about some of the loans. It's okay. It's okay. I did mention that we're spending billions. I think I saw a figure of 90 billion is going out in loan forgiveness. So take advantage if you need it, because that is something to help us get through these crazy times, these COVID times. Folks, I really, really appreciate being your host here. I hope to have more guests, and you could be one of them. Recruiters particularly, I would like your perspective as recruiters. I did some counseling for travel nurses. I ran a nurse agency for many, many years. When did I start that? 94, 95. Back there, I ran an agency for quite some time, all the way till about 2013, 14, and then I did quite a bit of clinical counseling for nurses, and now here I am streaming on the Travel Nurse Channel. Happy to do so, broadcasting weekly, and hopefully touching on subjects that interest you. There's so many tips. We've talked about tips for interviews. You know, I'm not sure. Maybe next time we'll just talk about trips for traveling. So if you're traveling, there's a variety of ways to get there. So say you're crossing the country. You live in Pennsylvania, and you've decided you're going to go travel to Austin, Texas. You decide, I love my car. I'm going to bring my car. Or you decide, I want to take a train trip. Or I'm going to fly, and how do I get my things that I need there? And then we can give you tips too on what nurses bring that they shouldn't bring, and the things that they bring that they're glad they brought or maybe wish they had brought. So always travel light, but you want to travel smart as well, right? So correct, I mean. um, so maybe, yeah, maybe we'll talk about that, the actual logistics of a person traveling. Some people travel with their families, so it could be a husband, a wife, and a child or more. And how does that work? And then if you're traveling solo, what about if you have pets? So there's all these logistics about traveling, because the typical travel assignment is 13 weeks, which is about 90 days. So what do you need for 90 days? What do you need professionally? What do you need to live well while you're away? And it could depend on where you're traveling. If you're traveling to a big medical center and the housing is right near there, maybe you don't need the car and special accommodations. Maybe there's dorms, maybe there's motels or efficiencies, and you just figure in your time off, you will take advantage of the Uber to get to the city, or a bus to get to the beach, or whatever it is. Austin apparently is really an up-and-coming place to travel in Texas, with lots and lots of travel needs. So yeah, so maybe one of these videos coming up, we'll talk about logistics for traveling. What's good to bring, what's silly to bring, what's helpful, and how to do it different ways. Car, train, automobile. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. It's Rita at the Travel Nurse Channel. Hang on for my fun commercial, and we'll see you next week at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thanks so much. If not sooner, maybe we'll see you sooner. Where is she? Where is she? There we go.
Travel nursing can bring you to places you've never been before. Tell us your story.